All right, welcome back to season 2 of the Play for Keeps podcast. I know we've been away for a while, longer than anticipated. It's Cameron Hay at Cameron_Hay on Twitter. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host Drew Williams at Dope is Drew on Twitter. Yo, we've been away for a minute, man.
Yeah, about 5.5.
Yeah, like we went away at
6 months.
the last episode we recorded for season 1 was 1985, and we lied to our listeners. We told them that we would be back at the top of 2021. It is midway through 2021 now. But as we had to find out the hard way, kind of, recording and setting up interviews with different people, getting locked in for this schedule, it's a lot harder than it looks. It's a lot harder than it may seem. But we finally got everybody locked in. We have all the dates locked in. So season 2 is currently underway. We're locked and we're loaded, and I think we're gonna have a good season this year. Well, this summer. I'm not gonna say this year. This summer going into the fall. I think we have a lot of fun stuff lined up for listeners, for our audience, and we just ready to take it to another level.
Yeah, I'm ready to get to it, bro.
Yeah, and for the first episode of season 1, I can't even say we got a special guest. This person, he kind of. I can't gas him up too much. He pretty normal in the grand scheme of things. We already had one half of the et ceteras on this pod last season, so it was only right we could get the second half of it. The less famous, but somehow equally as important member of the podcast.
Equally as polarizing.
Maybe more polarizing than his co-host, and that's saying something. But we got the infamous Bansky, also known as Eddie Gonzalez. He revealed his real name to the world this year. That's when you're getting real money now. Like he gotta go by his real name now. But what's good, bro? How you living?
I'm good, man. I will say this. Like, we got this thing we do on our show where we give like the most exaggerated gas intro possible.
Yeah.
And then on this one, I was just introduced as like the normal guy. So I actually appreciate that because now I'm motivated. Now I'm like, I need the gas intro next time.
I mean, we go back before what people will say the money. We know you for a while now, so it's all love. But before we get into all the questions and everything and the deep conversation, you were lucky enough to not only be in the building for Game 7 last night, but also Game 5 against the Bucks and then the Bucks in the Nets series. Like, can you describe to us what it was like not just seeing KD score the 49 in Game 5, that performance, and then the 48 last night, but just like the environment in Barclays. Like, people say that Barclays is not like one of those arenas in the NBA. Like, it's not a crazy home court advantage, but from the outside looking in, it looked like it was rocking this series and this postseason.
Yeah, man, it's a nice arena. I've been in some real loud and held in high regard arenas. The old Arco Arena for the Kings, that was one of the louder arenas at that point. I've been to Oracle where Steph has hit 4 straight threes and like it sounds like my ears is about to pop. So it's up there, man. It's a crazy environment. Obviously, Game 7 was a real tense situation. It ended rough, and but Game 5, you know how, Cam, we talked to Kev afterwards in our group chats or whatever, and we'll I wouldn't even say critique, because what are we gonna tell Kevin Durant about how to play basketball, right? But we'll kind of let him know how we felt. But there was nothing to say after that game, right? Like it was like speechless. And I called him on FaceTime. I actually posted a picture of it, which I never do. I try to keep that as separate as possible, as private as possible. But I had to call him, and like I told him outright, like it was an honor to see that in person. And you know how he is, so he's like thanking me for the praise and shit. I'm like, nah. Like this was different, dog. Like this was not no regular shit. And so I had to let him know that was one of them ones. As far as Game 7 goes, I mean it's almost the same, right? It was an honor to see that. And then like on a personal level, you just kind of feel for your guy for the way it ended, and I mean, he's gonna take it way rougher than any of us ever will. But yeah, it was like, you know, I was there with my girl, and it was like, damn, like me and her both just like, damn, I was fucked up. But
Yo,
you know how that shit goes, man. I mean, all that shit is just motivation for whatever's next for him, and it was just dope to see those moments in person.
yeah, you seeing. We all know like he's an all-time great already. Like he's accomplished pretty much everything you can accomplish in this sport. But like just to see a guy like that still somehow take his game to even higher level than previously imagined. Like what was it like when you saw that shot that he hit at the end of the fourth quarter to go to overtime? Like the turnaround from the 3-point line. Like no, me and Drew were watching the game, and Drew was like, "What the fuck?" Like yo,
How the fuck you hit that?
yeah, we was like, we thought we was like, that's the best shot he could get, and it still ended up going. It went in. It was like, of course. Like, what was it like in the actual arena when that went down?
So the way the place where I'm sitting, I had like the perfect angle to see that unfold. Like I'm sitting, which basically right of the Nets bench, and that wing is like the best place for me to look at on the court. And it happened so fast, and I was so aware of the clock. It's like I was worried they weren't gonna get a shot. If you remember that whole little sequence was Middleton actually got a good three. It rimmed out, or it went back rim. They didn't get the rebound though, and I remember thinking this whole year their Achilles has been rebounding, and of course it would end on giving up offensive rebound. Now Blake did the smart thing; he didn't foul. He did the math. He didn't foul right away. Bucks called a timeout, and then Brook actually like lost track of the whole situation, and then had a violation. So it was like, okay, cool. And I had like this really weird confidence of Kevin getting and making a shot. Like it felt like he had just missed a shot, but it felt like before that miss, he hadn't missed it like an hour. Yeah. And so it was like he's gonna make something. It's only two. He's gonna make something. And it's funny because on our last pod, I kind of was smoking him like, yo, Dame gives you that Kobe feel. You and Bron don't, and he's like
that shit went viral. Remember, like the clip.
What the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you know how that is. It's funny because we're doing that, and it's like, you know, we're recording that as other people there, and it's like it's kind of like this tense moment that people usually wouldn't see as we're talking shit to each other, and it's like, but I'm standing on my ground. Like I believe what I said. Like Dame had that feel. Like he's gonna take it and he's gonna make it. But like, you know, comes full circle, that's how that Kevin moment felt. Now, as far as the shot, like in that moment, I worried that like he might not get a shot off. And then he just turns and gets that shit up. And I thought it was a 3. So I thought the series ended.
Yeah, we thought it was over too.
Yeah.
It took me a second to realize, like I had to look up at the scoreboard, and because I knew there was time left. So I knew they would get a shot. They had a timeout. I had to put 2 and 2 together and go, oh shit, that was just a 2. But it was great. It was between that one and kind of like the falling one he made over Middleton in Game 5.
Yeah,
it was like, yeah, it was insane in there. It just, you know, 2 inches or whatever besides sending them home, and then it goes into overtime. So it was crazy.
Yeah, it's just wild to think about, like being in there for those moments. Like we went to Game 7. For not Game 7, that was Game 6.
Yeah,
the Clip. We were in Game 6 at Staples on Friday night for the Clippers and the Jazz, and like being there for that, to see how crazy that was, the environment for that game, to see the Clippers come back from down 23 to come back and break through for basically the franchise first time getting to the Western Conference Finals, to have it happen in that moment, and then like you being in Barclays for these iconic moments in the playoffs. We joke about it all the time about the bubble and how the playoffs now with the fans back in the arenas, like the feel is just completely different. But it's the truth. Like you can't replicate what that feeling is, being there in that environment in these type of games with that type of atmosphere. Like you just can't. There's nothing like it.
It's like the pandemic. It kind of amplifies that now, right? Like. I'm pretty sure whenever I go to a concert finally, it's going to feel like the greatest concert of all time. So that's kind of what this was too. Like it's funny, right? Like I get really cool with Kevin, and essentially, like now I have like season tickets to the NBA, and now there's no fans in the NBA for a season, and it's like, oh fuck. Even the games I got to go to when we really start kicking it like that, he's not playing, so it's like it's not as strong an attachment to what's going on the court,
Yeah.
and then it comes back for the playoffs, and it's like, oh okay, this is what it's been like. So yeah, it was dope to get back in there. It's still a little scary, like with COVID, because you go through all these protocols to get in, and then when you get in, it's just like old times, you know.
Yo, bro, at Staples, they didn't ask us. I had my Vax card with me and everything. They didn't check for anything when we walked in. They just basically let us walk through. Like, they just checked the tickets and everything. I thought for sure it was gonna be a stricter like protocol to get in. It was nothing like that at all.
Yeah, I had heard like different between, but like they have vaccinated sections, and they definitely checked our shit. But when we went to like others, I don't even want to speak like too ill of Barclays staff, but I had heard rumors that it was a little more loose depending on where you enter and all that. And then once you get in, and it's like nothing changed. It's crazy. Like it's funny. Like you're a little wary about going into a restaurant these days, and then they're so strict on what the players can do and all this stuff. And then there's 20,000 people in this building
Exactly.
staring at each other.
Exactly.
And it's like it's not like we're spread out, like we're shoulder to shoulder with these strangers, and it just doesn't matter. So it's crazy.
Yeah, no, definitely. We got our NBA talk in though to start this off. You know, we had to ease in with what we know. What I think we know the best. We try to pretend like we know it the best. But
yeah, we like to. We're most enthusiastic about that. I don't even know
exactly, exactly.
I'll be wrong. I'll be wrong. Like people wave me being wrong in my face. Yo, bro, I'll be wrong. Like what the fuck?
Wrong more than 50% of the time, more than likely. Like we all, like we all
I'll be
miss.
wrong, bro. It's like it's whatever. Like
Yo, but facts. Like of course, we wanted to have you on because not only because of our relationship that you have with us, but just the lane you've carved out in the media space at this point. And like me and you go back to probably like 2017. I think that was when we first started following each other on Twitter. That's how we first met. I was interning at Complex. I had dropped that top rap duos list for Complex, and you had rocked with the fact that I had Young Thug and Rich Homie on it, and like we kind of clicked from there. But I had been seeing your work before that, even when I was in college and everything, stuff you had done with Up Rocks, the Undefeated. You were kind of like all over the place. And so I was like, I'm a huge hip hop nerd and everything. So I'm gonna read anything that pertains to music. So like I was familiar with your work. Can you like tell us and the people who might not be familiar with your previous work, how you even came about becoming a quote unquote journalist or getting into writing about music?
it's really crazy, bro. Like if 10 years ago you had told me I could write about rap songs and then I could take my son to his basketball tournaments, I would have been elated. Like I would have been like, that's the dream. Like, what do you mean? And I got to do that. And I had appreciated that in the moment because with like folks don't know about me, I dropped out of high school. Like and then I dropped out of college. You know, when I eventually made it to college, I dropped out of that too. When I went to college, I was like, I'm gonna be a pharmacy tech because they always hiring. I could go work at Rite Aid and I'll be cool. I can make like $20 an hour and feed my kids. You know what I mean? Like that was my goal. But ever since I was younger, I just constantly read things. I just constantly in tune with shit. And then when the internet got going, I just same thing, just constantly in tune with everything. And that shit started paying off when people started pushing me towards writing. And I never thought I'd be a writer, even though I like to read as much as I did. But yeah, like I slowly got into it. I started working with the smoking section. And John Gotti there kind of still serves as my mentor and really taught me how to, what I would say is the way I speak, put that into text. And that way I had my own identity and my own voice. And that grew and grew and grew. And social media was obviously a big help. But that was more relationships, you know what I mean? And meeting the right people on social media. And that way, when I pitch to an editor, he knows I'm that funny guy that was joking about whatever the other day. and that carried on and carried on, and that also helped form the voice that I project in my work. And it's funny because like you're more hot takey on social media, but when you have to sit down and write and really put like your name behind some shit, you're really
Facts.
gonna like dig in and make sure it's informed and it comes from a good place. So yeah, I might joke about Steph Curry online on Twitter, but if I'm gonna write about Steph, it's probably gonna be a fluff piece because he's amazing. And then like
Right.
when I write that out in 2,000 words, that's kind of like the only conclusion you can get to. So there is a little bit of like separation of church and state, but there's a synergy too. There's this weird hybrid of what media is now to where your social media is so integral to the way you promote your content, to the way you create your content, or to the way that you even broadcast your content, because some of it will be for social media. So to answer your question, I just went from there. I was just trying to get my content out in any way I could, in any place I could, and it became a job, and then it became a career, and then I started making connections, and it just went from there. And then it got to a place where I'm running into people like you who are keeping me young, and I'm like, yo, I fuck with his perspective, even when we don't agree. I fuck with the fact that it's well thought out, and shit, he might be right and I might be wrong. And so it was a lot of that, and it's like, yo, how can I work with him? How can I put him in a place to do what I was trying to do? Because I know I've been there before. And like, I don't know if you know this, Drew, I had to fire Cam, and
Yeah.
it wasn't because like he wasn't doing what he was doing well. It was some other shit. But this how I knew Cam was up though, because I had to fire him with like a day's notice, and he was like, "Oh, I'm good. It's cool." I'm like,
Yeah, this was like this was
I'm like, oh yeah,
not last year. This was 2019. We were working at we don't even got we don't got to say the company,
yeah.
but he had hired me. This was like right when I had left. I left from Complex.
You were working like independently then, right?
Yeah, I was working
Yeah.
with the company that
Okay.
Bands was working with, and
So I
Bands was
had
like,
hired him, and then
yeah,
I had came back like a month later and said, "Yo, what will it take for you to leave that other place and just work here?" And then
yeah,
we made that happen, and that was like, I don't know, a couple months. And then I had
Okay.
to go, "Hey, my bad, bro. Like
yeah, yeah,
tomorrow's your last check. Enjoy it." And he's
yeah.
like,
The
"Oh,
only
it's cool." That's how I knew he was on some St. Louis scammer type shit, because it meant nothing to him. He was like, "Oh, I got the bag. It's cool." I'm like, "Oh,
I wasn't
all
rattled,
right."
like, and I was smart enough. Like when we like, so the money I was making with him was good money. I'm not gonna lie. So like I got like about 4 months worth of money out of it, but it was some good bread. And so I was saving it up. And so when he hit me, let me know he's letting me go. I was like, damn. But all right, fuck it. Like it is what it is. We gonna rock out. And so lucky enough, like probably like I was out of work for like maybe as a full-time job, maybe like 3 months. And then I landed at Fox where I'm at now, and I'm like working full-time at Fox and shit.
Right.
So like I don't know. That's how I am. I don't
Gotta
really
keep
be
it pushing, man.
exactly.
You
I
gotta
don't let
keep it
shit phase
pushing.
me too much, bro. Like
Yeah, I know how y'all do in St. Louis. I know what you be on. I seen your brother. I seen your brother with
yo,
the Union Ones, Off White, everything. I
you
see
want to
you,
talk? You
son.
talk about I'm a scammer, bro. Like that's the one you gotta keep your eye on for real, for real. That's the one you definitely gotta keep your eye on.
Yo, Cam showed up in some Amiri pants and Dior kicks, and I'm like,
Yo,
a pandemic.
yo,
Man,
you had to go out for my birthday, man. You know how it is,
I
man.
feel it, man. I'm trying to get like you. You know how that go.
I'm trying to get like you, for sure.
all right. I know we talked a little bit about your writing and all that, but for the people that haven't heard, because I know you and Kev touched on it a little bit, talk about how you and Kev linked up and thought about doing a pod and everything around that.
Yeah, so as you could tell, I'm like long-winded and just comfortable hearing my own voice, I guess. So I had a podcast with my man Jonathan Tillman, and kind of as our preview for the NBA, we were discussing the free agency moves of that summer, and that was Kawhi going to the Clippers. That was Kevin and Kyrie going to the Nets. I think Jimmy went to the Heat as well. Yeah, Jimmy went to the Heat. Um, and the season before, LeBron had went to the Lakers. And so I had this kind of combo that was essentially, I feel like these guys are making lifestyle choices just as much as they're making basketball choices, in the sense that, for Kyrie, that's going back home. Same for Kev. It's just quick hopping a jump from from the DMV area where he's from. He's an East Coast kid. He just had a nephew. It was a whole bunch to it, right? And then same for LeBron. LeBron's adamant that his wife, his mother, his family they wanted to be in LA. That's a big part of the reason on LA. If you're Jimmy, yeah, give me that Miami lifestyle and that money. And Kawhi is the same thing. He wanted to be back home. And so it just felt like guys were taking charge. And I had kind of just riffed about that and used Kevin as kind of the biggest example of he's achieved everything he could achieve. You know what I mean? So now there's other elements that he wants to check off where he wants to work. And it's like, yo, Brooklyn is great. And you get to play with your mans and the whole nine. So I had posted essentially that. It was a little more thorough and in depth, but I posted that on Twitter and tagged him because I know he'd be active and I know he'd be lurking. And he hit me. He hit me like 5 minutes later. It was like, yo, I fuck with the pod. I'm like, what? And so it was one of them things like I thought it was fake. I was showing people. I sent my girl. I showed my people, my homies at work. I was showing like, yo, look, you see this thing? But we got to talking, and y'all know, y'all talk to him just as much as me. It just became like the homie. Like we was talking, and it's like, yeah, obviously I'm trying to get him on the pod immediately, but then it turns into like, yo, we watching the game and we kind of just shooting thoughts about the game, or we're watching the football game, or we're watching a movie, and it's like, yo, have you seen this? It's fire, and it goes on and on and on. And he's a big Drake fan, and our lifestyles coming up with kind of similar, and it's all this shit, right? And then we start talking about like his goals with media, my goals with media, just on and on and on. And it was just so much synergy that we really hit it off, and to the point where, you know, now that's one of my best friends, and like we've spent holidays together and shit like that. So it just went from there, and you get that cool with somebody, and then there's actual opportunity to work together. It only makes sense. It's no different than what me and Cam did. It's like let's do something.
Facts.
And you know, we have all kinds of ideas. Some that we still may do, some that we might not. And a podcast was just one of them. And we kind of brainstormed there. And it's funny because, like, the original idea for what the Et Ceteras became was such an involved and much more like deep dive kind of thing. And I had to have Rich Kleiman, who also has become one of my best friends since then, he had to kind of like remind me, because we talk to this dude every day and he's just like one of the homies. He's part of the group chat, you know. Yo, you got to remember, at the end of the day, this is Kevin Durant. So like, this is the guest. This is enough to carry the show. And I was like I had really lost sight of that. So that's how we ended up where we ended up. And, you know, him and I just kind of built that idea out from there, and kind of what we envisioned for what this brand could be if it becomes a brand, and on and on and on. And, you know, he's been incredibly trusting of me with that and guiding that ship. And, you know, he'll step in when need be. But between him and Rich, you know, I feel like at this point I've earned a ton of trust with them, with, you know, both my work ethic, the quality of work I put out for us to carry this into the next step. And the company, you know, Boardroom has grown, and 35 Ventures has grown, and so much since I've been there. So it's all been natural, and it's all worked really well. And, you know, it's been a blur. Every once in a while, people have to remind me how unique that circumstance is. And, you know, I hate when people kind of call it lucky, because you know how that is. Like, people call you lucky, and it's almost like a slice. Like, well, yeah, but I also worked my ass off for 10 years to even be in this place. But it's been like, it's so unique, and it's crazy. But I had to be reminded that it's crazy, because at the end it is my regular life. So, but it's been fun, man. I've met a lot of dope people, and I think, you know, have learned a lot in this situation as well.
The funny thing about that is, like, you and Kev doing the pod, like, a lot of people, they might not know, like, well, they probably don't. That's with Kev, but sometimes you probably experience it. You kind of have to like nudge at him a little bit sometimes to like really like, you know what I'm saying? So like, I remember last year, right before the pandemic, when he was here in LA, we had went to dinner, me, him, and Trev. We went out to eat and everything after they played the Lakers, and we sitting at the dinner table. And I don't know if you guys had already had the plan in motion, but I'm like, yo, like, you're on Twitter so much, and like every time you get on Twitter and you tweet anything, like, it sparks conversation for a day, 2 days, or whatever. I was like, you really need to look into like doing a pod. Like, people want to hear what it is you have to say. He was like, He's like, you really think so? Like, he's like, you think a pod makes sense? I was like, bro, it's a layup for you. Like, there's not many guys in pro sports or the NBA period who can command conversation like that, who can like really like dictate the way a conversation can go. And now to see what the et ceteras has become, like, and you yourself, you're one of those people on Twitter who, no matter what you tweet, it's like it's a lightning rod.
Yeah, you're gonna be a lightning rod.
Exactly. So, like,
I don't want that, by the way.
it's like that's what it is. So it's like both of y'all coming together to make this pod, and then it's like I said, to see what it's become, to see the guests. Like, of course, like Rich said, Kevin is Kevin. He can carry the show on his own, but Kevin being Kevin also opens the door for you all to get the type of guests that you get, and like for you all to be able to do this type of show and to have this, like, it was like seamless chemistry, to be honest with you. Like, when you could tell you guys have been like
talking for a while
when you started, before you cut the mic on and started recording. Like,
it's funny because we have this gold that other people don't have, and what that gold is that Kevin, like, he's a megastar. And again, we forget because we joking with him about his hair and shit every day, and with, he breaks a shot to lose a game or whatever with teasing him. Like, he would tease us if we posted a wild outfit on the gram or whatever. So we forget, like, he's this mega star. And the thing that we have that's gold is that we get him in these really natural and organic moments and authentic conversations that you don't get from nobody else on that level. Like, not even to throw names and specifics out there, but like, you don't get to see those guys behind the curtain in that way. And that's fine. There's reasons why. And I understand them, but Kevin is so normal in a sense that he doesn't mind giving that. So you get that. You get an MVP, a finals MVP who will get on a podcast and just kind of like fan out at 40 because he made the calm and he's telling us how he made the calm. And talk to J. Cole about like the intricacies of him rapping and the skill of that and stuff like, and just be a fan for an hour and a half with somebody like that. And then, he's also a cheat code because Draymond's not going to be as comfortable in an interview if Kevin's not there, and same with Kyrie or Ali or LeVar Ball, right? They're just not going to be as comfortable and as open unless Kevin's there and they have a peer to bounce these things off of. So it's a really great spot for me. There's a challenge to kind of balancing that, like the interview challenge of that, but that's what I do. So we have this really unique situation, and I think we're the only ones. There's other great podcasts with athletes. There's other athletes who are incredibly natural and authentic on their shows, but they're not as big as stars as Kevin. And so, yeah, like, we're kind of like the only people that offer that. And, hopefully as it goes on, I think two things are happening. One, and this happens with all podcasts that last long enough, that garner an audience, people are coming for that camaraderie. So for our show, it would be between me and Kevin, right? And I take pride in that. I take pride in remaining as natural and, as can be. Like, I would never get disrespectful, but I'm the person who can tell Kevin, like, yeah, Dame gave me the Kobe feel. You kind of don't. Whereas, if a reporter at the Scrum did that, we've seen Kevin like tell people, like, what the fuck is your, like, out of here.
Exactly.
And so I take pride in that. And the other thing too is, we definitely get people who tune in for the bigger guests, and that's great. I mean, that's how podcasts work. So I think we got a good mix, and we'll have some stuff in store, and we'll continue to grow from there and grow a community and put that together because we're enjoying that, and that was always our goal.
Facts. Like, it's just crazy to witness, and there's more to come on the horizon. Like, just seeing you become this co-host of this pod, and not even just being the co-host of the et ceteras, but branching out at the boardroom, like you said, creating like series like the show we've worked on, the Etcetera's Locked In, and doing all the other stuff that you're working on, like within the Boardroom Company and 35 Ventures. Like, how far do you really see this going? Like, what is the ultimate goal for you at this point? Because we've talked about you transitioning from writing into like co-hosting a pod and doing all of this stuff. Like, what's the next step for you? Like, is there anything more that you could even dream to accomplish at this point?
I mean, I really want to, no pun intended, I really want to lock into what we're doing here with Etcetera's and Boardroom too. And the freedom that I've been given, you've worked in media for a long time. Like, you get to places and they say they offer you the creative opportunity to kind of do whatever you want, and it's almost never true. So the freedom that I've been given and the fact that that's true here, I definitely want to take advantage of the opportunity and, reward their faith in me. So first of all, first order of business, it's really locking in, making this podcast as great as it can be, as big as it can be, and growing that community, because that can turn into so many different things, so many different opportunities, so many different outlets. It's almost like, kind of like Fast Five universe, right? Like, now they can do spinoffs because they've grown that community to that point and they've grown that universe. And so I don't think we're a cinematic universe, but there is something to creating a big podcast, and a podcast that people are locked into and people have a real relationship with. So that's my focus, and like in the immediate, as going forward and however many years or whatever, we could end up in a situation where Etcetera's is this company unto itself, where we're able to corner that culture market and offer a unique perspective that I don't think exists. Not to pat ourselves on the back, but I don't think that exists in the way like I would like it to. My original pitch to Kevin and then to Rich, in part was to project this really natural and authentic version of Kevin that people don't see out into the world, because I think it's unique and useful for both him and the company he's building and everything else. But it's also this idea that I want to be able to hear people that look like me and sound like me talk about things that I like, because that doesn't exist. And we need more of that, and we get certain guys in certain spots and they get opportunities, and I wish them all the best. And I know that when they get those opportunities, a lot of times they're working under the microscope, and they're working with a thumb in their work, and they can only do so much. It's hard. It's hard being in those positions. It's like, yo, you want to put on for your people, but you can only do so much. You can only say so much. So I want to introduce that to the world as much as we can. And there's like an example I always use and I always show people. It was this one company's draft coverage, and it was like the dorkiest, whitest group of people you possibly think of, and they're talking about the NBA draft, and they're just talking about it like in all of these wild terms, and they're minimizing them to these really specific roles that are based on analytics, and it's just like it took all of the style and the emotion and the flair out of basketball that is the reason why I love basketball. Like, if we look at Jason Williams, who's one of my favorite players ever, I know statistically he's probably like not great, but he mattered so much. And then I watch people do that with Iverson too.
Right.
We tear down his legacy because of these new statistics that we've now placed value in and have kind of bent the game to a certain style. But there was no debate in Iverson when he was dribbling around all these gyms. There was no debate. Like, he was an icon. Like, you've never seen people wearing another player's signature shoes almost like Mike besides Iverson. And that was like Reeboks. Like, he was, so it was like, it was a different level. So, like, I hate that that's being removed from the way the game is covered and sports, period. There's this certain element to, I see it happen with football. I see it happen in every sport. But it's like, you got to remember where these guys are coming from and where they working from to get where they're at. And, shit like these guys are saving their families and like shit like that. And these other people aren't taking that into account. I know Cam, you like to bring up Rudy Gay a lot. It's like that's a great career.
Yes,
He
that's a
didn't
great
win an
career.
Made a lot of
MVP.
money.
He didn't make an All-Star game. He didn't do all that. But he averaged 18 for his career. He played however many years. He found different roles. He mattered in playoff series. That's a great career. And so it's just this way of viewing the sport that I think kind of got washed away, and I want back in there because that perspective matters. So that's a long-winded ass way to say, yo, I want to add different takes to the world of culture that aren't being allowed, and I want them takes to come from culture. And I think we have an opportunity to do that, and we have a platform to do that, and we've been given the freedom to do that. So I look forward to doing it as the years go on.
Facts.
Definitely. And I know y'all are gearing up to get ready for the new season to come out. Is there any one interview that stood out as your favorite from the initial run that you guys went on, or they all kind of lumped together?
I get asked that a lot, like privately, and it's tough, right? Like some of them matter for different ways. Like when we got Cole, we were geeked because now we have an artist doing their rollout, and then it's Cole who probably won't speak again for 3 years.
All
And
Exactly.
right.
so it was like it was huge. It was huge for us to show that our platform could do that, and he enjoyed it to the extent he did. And his manager is saying it's the best interview he's done in X amount of time. And so, like, they matter in different ways. Draymond, we got to bring that story to light, and nobody else is ever going to get them to sit down together like that. Only we could do that on our platform. The same for Kyrie, and on and on and on. So, they all have this different significance to me. It's like, choosing your babies or whatever. I'll say my favorite was the one that was just me and him, because that's like the most selfish and vain answer possible. I did enjoy having the homies on. Like, this is why I fuck with Kevin, because when we said, yo, let's do a pod, me, you, Cam, and Pierce, he never like, no, nothing. Let's do it. Log
Yeah.
on. Like, just say when. You know what I mean? And so that one matters for other reasons. And they all matter to an extent. But yeah, I'll be vain and like and be a jackass and say, yeah, when me and him are talking. But the truth to that answer though is that was an important episode for us to show people would actually tune into that and care. And we could do a show that was just us and it still carry and be entertaining and maintain our audience. And it did. And Cam, and too, Drew, like we all can sit down and talk with the homie for an hour about nothing. And so that's easy. Like him and I could do that damn near every day. And it's dope that we're able to do that and turn it into this thing. And then we just did one recently for YouTube, and that can get 100,000 views in a day. And it's like, yo, like, and I know there's a little bit of a cheat that it's like, it's Kevin Durant. He's talking about Jason Tatum and he's talking about this, that, and the third. But it's still dope for him and I to go, yo, people really locked into just us kicking the shit. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's how most friendships start, and then it just evolves. Like me and Drew, like you said, me and like we just sit down and talk for an hour. That's how I met this guy. Like freshman year at Loyola, like sitting outside of our dorm, just talking shit for an hour about
Movies,
everything,
basketball,
like, bro,
shoes,
so,
everything.
Yo, but just like you said, to be able to see that there's an audience to just hear you two come on there, you don't need a guest. I can see how that's fulfilling in a major way.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and it was like the best pods are like you're simulating a dinner with somebody. There's always that age-old question: if you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? And you're essentially simulating that situation. Or, for us, it might be kicking it at the crib, smoking, watching the game, or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever the situation is, you're simulating that kind of like chill and just shoot the shit. And I feel like we do a really good job of that. And to have somebody like Kevin, who again is a megastar, but is able to take off like the 1,000-watt glasses and just be him, it adds a unique spin that we just can't get nowhere else. There's that. Like, I don't know who the NFL equivalent of Kevin is, but we're not getting an hour of Pat Mahomes every 2 weeks with his boy and with his other partner, and they're just talking about the TV show they watch. You know what I mean? Like if we get Pat Mahomes, we're gonna get Under Armour Pat Mahomes or whatever he's sponsored by. Like we're gonna get that, and that's no disrespect to him, but it's just that's the situation. He's a megastar. He can't really do that. But Kevin don't give a fuck, and he will. Like he'll get on Spaces with us, and he'll talk about
Facts.
the new album that dropped and why he thought Takeoff bars was better than Quavo's and this and that. And yeah, like not everybody would do that.
Definitely. How long did it take for you and Kev to get comfortable around each other where anything can be talked about? Or
So
was it
y'all know,
immediately?
so y'all know because y'all have went through this same like rigorous process. But he brought me to the like he invited us to the crib to like chill,
Yeah.
shoot the shit.
Right.
And like the chef made some immaculate fucking meal, and I had to like
Same thing for us.
I
Yeah,
had to
Jeff cooked
I
us
had
up.
to like I didn't want to make this man cook for me, you know. And then it's like, no, like this is what he enjoys this shit. Like
This is literally the
we-
same exact thing.
I told him, like, I'm
felt
good.
like
He's
I
like,
felt
chef
like
cooking anyway.
like you know what's funny is I'll tell Kevin like, do I need to bring something? And he's laughing me out the fucking off the phone, like, shut up. And I'm like, nah, but like I'm coming to like, yo, I'll bring a bottle or something. Like, what do you want me to, you know what I mean? It's like, no. But so we go, we talk. We actually first time we kicked it was actually like Duce Palooza. And it was like so much going on, we barely did shit. And then like a couple of days later, when kicked it and we just chilled. And I said this on our pod too. Just as much as like he was probably trying to make sure I wasn't a weirdo, I was doing the same because I don't know KD at that point, right? Like we didn't talk a bunch, but you could talk to people online all the time and then run into them and it just be some whole other shit. So I was on the same thing. Like I don't know what I'm about to walk into at this dude's house. You know, I don't know what kind of time we're gonna be on. But we talked and it was just, some of it was work, some of it was like the game that was on, some of it was just whatever, and it just clicked, as you can see. And yeah, I mean, it just worked. So to answer your question though, it didn't take long at all, especially in person, and it was immediately like plotting on what do we do. And I will say this though, like his whole thing was, I think we kicked it a couple times. It was like, all right, now you got to meet Rich. I was like, all right, and I was like, Rich was like the boogeyman to me. Like, he could shut this whole shit down. And now me and Rich are so cool, bro. Like, it's funny that I told Rich, like, yo, I thought you was the big bad wolf. But like every time I talk to you, I feel way better about everything we got going on. He's like, bro, like, it's good, bro. It's love. I'm like, but at first, man, I didn't know what the hell I was getting in with Rich. But, he's hella cool. And that's like, just as much as Kev is the Brody, so is Rich now, and it's all love. These guys are fam.
No, facts. We've talked a lot about this Ceteris Ballroom, everything. Now I got to get in my nerd bag a little bit, ask you some questions.
Yeah, man, I don't talk about them dudes no more.
Yeah, for real. Like, yo, like
season's over, bro.
Kev is nowhere near as important as we just made him out to be for the last 25 minutes. Like, nowhere near. But yo, so we talking about your introduction into writing and everything. And you were talking about how if you would have known you could just write about songs and shit and feed your family, you would have took it. What was there a specific album or song that you heard, like maybe not growing up, but like as you were progressing into writing that really made you want to dive into that? Like an artist, a song, an album, anything of that nature?
So I'm a little older than I guess I look. I don't know. I feel like people are starting to realize how old I am now.
Yeah.
I don't like Lil Uzi and shit like that. But like, so I'm 35, right? So the first album I ever bought was Doggy Style. Like I got birthday money and I went to Tower Records. I know y'all don't know what the record store is, but like they used to, like music used to like be a thing you could hold. So I used to go buy that. So I bought Doggy Style and I bought The Chronic, which is crazy. Think about it. I was like, whatever. I think I was 8 years old. And I had to have somebody at the store buy it. Like I had to ask somebody up there, yo, can you give me these two? And so like I had always been into rap. Like that was like the only music I knew. And just always loved music in that way. I was always like music was always playing in my house constantly, just always. Whether I was playing it, whether my mom was playing it, and so I just always been around that. But as I grew, I mean, Pac was a huge influence. But as far as wanting to have this kind of like journalistic take on music, it's the magazines. We did an episode about Slam magazine. That shit was so integral to like my childhood and just
Facts.
my perspective on life and my viewpoint of the sport of basketball. So like I was one of them kids that like I had boxes and boxes of magazines in my wall, and I would read them shits. Like other people was just looking at the pictures and just slipping through. I would read them shits and just these deep dives into my favorite artists or to these artists I didn't even know who they were. It was like you'll read a story about like Pastor Troy, like, okay, now I gotta hear what the fuck these songs they're describing are. Like I have to see this. And so that was what it was for me. So just coming up reading Double XL, reading Vibe, reading The Source, obviously, reading all these different publications. And then in sports, it was ESPN magazine was big for me when I was younger. Slam, obviously, Dime, all these different magazines. And I started reading biographies. Like, I was a reader. And so that's kind of what changed it for me. When I got going, though, the blog era was really happening. So actually, J. Cole was a huge part of what I was writing about early on, Drake, and then Jay-Z. Like, I was writing, I was trying to write a Jay-Z article like every other week, it felt like. And it was like, he didn't even drop music, bro. Like, enough. But, yeah, I mean, that era of music, I really got going with this shit like 2012. So Kendrick, Good Kid, Mad City was huge for that, and Take Care, and just all of that stuff that was coming in the era, as well as Cooks and Oranges. And just getting the chance to really dive in and kind of, we used to say at Smoking Section, like, we're not really discovering people no more. Like, people discovering their own acts, but we're like translating. We're explaining why this matters. We're explaining why this is good. We're explaining why this is unique. And so just kind of helping people understand those artists in those times was really what pushed me into that place. And I started doing concerts. I started like going to concerts at that too. And that's when I started talking to artists. And I started realizing like I'm able to get things out of these people that a lot of people aren't, just because of the way I talk to them. And it just went from there.
That like it's funny, like you bring up the blog era and all of that stuff. Like that was probably you in like your mid-20s, but that's me and Drew like in our mid-20s and everything. But it still circles back. Like that's really when I really started diving in and wanting to like potentially start writing about music. Or we got a guest. We got a guest. We got somebody joining in with it.
Bro jumped out the cage.
Yo, but that's like when I really started diving into it. Like kind of like you, I'm pretty sure Drew was the same way. Like growing up, it was music in my house all the time. Like I tell everybody, like Jay-Z is the GOAT to me because I think he raps that well, but also like I don't think I had a choice. Like my pops was like always playing Jay-Z around the house or in the car when he take us to go get our haircuts on Saturdays. Like that's what we would listen to. So like
that's how my uncle was with Pop.
Yes.
Pac is him. That's it.
Exactly.
All right.
My pops had all the Pac albums too. Like he still has all of them. So like I go home. When I go home, still I go digging through his crates of CDs and everything, and just see all of the, like you said, music was something you could touch. Like just seeing everything that he has, like his collection. Like that's kind of what drew me in. And then like you said, the blog era as well. So it's like I'm pretty sure Drew is the same way.
No, definitely.
Like with exploration and just figuring this shit out on your own, what you're enamored with and what you're drawn to. That brings me to my next question for you, though, bro. So you said Doggy Style was the first album you bought. Like, I gotta put you on the spot. I gotta ask you the cliche question, but it's a question you probably gonna get killed for this as well for your answers. But we here. What are like 5 essential albums for you, like, or albums that you might cut on and they really inspire you to really get motivated to work? Like an album that you can cut on, and this is what's gonna really take me to that place to be productive. Like, come up with this next idea for something I'm working on for the boardroom, or even inspire me to want to write again. Like, I know you don't have much time to write now that you used to, but like these type of albums.
Yeah, the writing thing is funny, man. It's like I was talking to Justin Tinsley about, I remember when we would first start going, all we wanted to do was write. Like, we was begging to write, and we had to turn some shit around in 2 hours. That's all we had, And now it's like, I hate to sound like that, but it's like now I'm so busy, I can't like. I sound like a dickhead, but to answer your question, I mean, I feel like this would change by the day. Like you could ask me this tomorrow, and I might have a different list. But I think Blueprint by Jay-Z is always up there. Machiavelli or All Eyes on Me by Pot is always up there. So we're gonna give them both a slot. Good Kid, Mad City. I've written in depth about that before, and I talked about it with Ali on our pod. But that's an album that was so impactful and so relatable to me and my experience in my life. That's always up there. That'll get me going. SZA Control is just like one of the ones that kind of just takes me into a different kind of zone. Like,
Yeah.
I remember talking to somebody when Control came out. I was like, this album is not for me. This album is for like a 20-year-old woman and like all the experiences she's going through and shit. And here I am, this 30-year-old man. But I'm like, yo, why is this album having such like like it's such a resounding effect on my psyche right now? But Control is definitely up there. I think my wild card would be Amy Winehouse, Frank. I actually named my daughter after Amy Winehouse, so that's always a huge, impactful part of just music for me. To throw like some honorable mentions in there, just to not forget these albums. The Warm Up by J. Cole. There's a couple songs on there that are just like they're so on the nose for my life, both at the time and then as I grow. That I can't ignore that album. And let's throw a Drake album in there and just say nothing was the same because it's the best Drake album. So I cheated in that 7 albums, but it changes. I mean, Cam, you and I talk about this quite a bit. Like I go through phases. Like I only listen to new wild ass ratchet hood rap, or I'm only listening to these 3 albums I love from 2002.
Yeah.
Or I'm listening to R&B, or I'm not listening to shit. I'm just listening to podcasts, or I'm watching movies for a month. So I go through weird phases, and just like we were just working on something this week, and it was like every other day. It's like, Cam, I got it. I'm gonna send it to y'all. And like that creativity has to spark. And so I'm basically useless unless I have it. So I will go digging, like you said. I will go digging and just run through the old albums. Like maybe this shit'll wake me up. And you know what actually got me going this time? The Godfather came on fucking TV. And I was just like kind of like marveling at the art of this movie.
Oh, you and Drew about to go into a deep dive. Elite film.
Because you know what trips me out about this movie, and you know what like I literally start typing and then got up and then recorded what I needed to do for our project, Cam, is the diner scene. And I was just like you could this is like a play. Like you could do this on a stage somewhere, and then just what Pacino was doing with just facial expressions. Like half of that scene, he's speaking Italian and they never sub it. So we never, like if you don't know Italian or don't Google it, you never know what they're talking about. And then the other half of that scene, he's just sitting there, face scrunched up and fucking swollen because a cop punched him, and just, he knows he's about to kill these 2 people, and it's like revenge for his dad. But he's projecting all that. Like he's not saying the worst. And so anyway, I was just watching that and I was just like enamored and like, just like, they fucking just made this. Like they just thought of this. It's from a book, but they thought of this, and then Pacino and you know they put this together. So anyway, long story short, I be needing the sparks now, and you know how that goes. Like you feel like because I need this spark, like am I not good at what I do? Am I not like can I not do this shit? Like you run through all this shit. My bad.
No, you good.
You run through all this shit in your head, and then you get the spark. And then you do the thing, and then you go, "Oh, I'm him." Like, yo, fuck, I scored 48 in Game 5. Like, I'm
exactly.
And so it was one of them moments. But okay, Drew, like I'm gonna interview y'all now. Like, you got 1 or 2? Which one is better?
I think 2. 1, they both in my top 5, but I think 2 I would give a slight edge only because I feel like they tied in the different timelines together perfectly. I feel like having that jump between like young Vito and Michael, they could have fucked it up, but they did a perfect job of like blending it all together.
So like the answer to this is also like my Pacino versus De Niro answer, but I think it's part of like my fucked up way of thinking is that the 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 past timeline we know he makes it,
Right.
so it loses some suspense to me,
Right.
and so it didn't ever hit. And then I'm just in awe of what Pacino did in the original, and even the scene we just said. And so I always pick one, but I'm actually about to watch two again today after these playoff games because having watched this one again, it's like okay, I got to give it another deep dive because I had got so like again like enamored of like the artistry, like it was just, and it's wild. Like they made this movie however many years ago, and you could tell like there's a certain amount of production that is lacking just because it was that long ago. Like even like the gun sound when he gets shot outside outside the little deli, it's like what was that? They pull and like the way he rolls over when he's all shot and shit. It's like it's so overly dramatic, but it's like this is how movies were made back then. Like this set the stage for a lot of shit. So anyway, it was like I was watching that shit just in awe, and I'd seen this movie 100 times, and I was like, holy, like they fucking made this. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like this brings us back to the conversation. We had this conversation one day in the chat. All of us, we were having it, and like this whole conversation you guys just had about the Godfather. And of course, I've seen Godfather 1 and 2. I think they both excellent. Like when the conversation was about who's out of these four actors whose catalog could be erased forever and you could live, and people were saying Pacino. Like I don't understand.
Give the full four. So
the full four, it was Pacino, Leonardo DiCaprio, Samuel L. Jackson, and Denzel Washington.
And Denzel, yeah.
And they were like, all of their movies have to go. Like everything, even if they weren't the lead. And I was like, there's no way Al Pacino can go. Like strictly off of The Godfather 1 and 2, and then for me personally, he is one of my favorite movies
Scarface,
ever.
Man.
And Scarface as well. But he is definitely one of my favorite.
Even The Irishman. The Irishman
bro,
was really good.
Like it's just a lot of shit Pacino's been in. Like if you were erase it.
Yeah, I was getting killed because my answer was Denzel, but it's like
that was mine too.
You can't get rid of Sam. He's done too many. Like he's in too much shit. He's in Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown and
the Marvel shit,
Avengers, and
like,
you know what I mean?
Star Wars.
He's in too much shit. He's in Star Wars, like
all those Spike Lee films.
Yeah. So it's like it turned into this weird space. He's in, like you know what I mean. So whether he's the star or not, it's kind of a cheat. But like he's also like the highest grossing actor ever.
Yeah,
he's in 100,000 movies.
Exactly.
So it was like that was a wild convo, but I was with you. Like we're not doing Pacino slander, right? Like
no,
y'all shitting me.
Exactly.
And y'all like, all right, maybe I'm the only one who's seen all these movies because this motherfucker is untouchable. And I don't know, it was a wild combo. You know how that shit goes.
Exactly.
I think people look at Pacino and they look at the bottom of the catalog and they're like, he clearly has done a lot of shit. Like, like I don't know why he took that film, but
Pacino
the top
like
of the catalog really strong.
Pacino reminds me of how they be doing Pac on Twitter. Like, y'all say all this shit, but end of the day, like he made 3 of the greatest albums ever.
Right.
So,
and every rapper wants to be like him.
And the motherfuckers was back to back to back, and it was like I said it one day. I tweeted. I said it's crazy if you think about Pac like this. He made one of the greatest albums of all time. Then he got shot in the head and went to prison. Then he got out of prison and made another one of the greatest albums of all time. Then he got shot in the chest and died. Then he dropped another one of the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah.
And it's like that's like 3 years. Like he did all that in like 3 years real time. It's like. Yeah, like how do we slander that? I don't get it.
Unparalleled.
Anyway, yeah. So Pacino, man, you cannot cross him off that list. That was crazy. Man.
All right, and I got one question left. I don't know if Drew has anything after this, but with season 2 of the etc. is coming back. Is this season 2 technically? Like, are you all?
Yeah,
it's season
2. Yeah.
You don't tip the hand to let us know who's coming on. I want to know, is there anybody that you have like that's a dream interview that you absolutely would love to interview before this is all said and done? Like maybe they're on the docket coming up, maybe they're not yet, but like who is it?
there's two, and they're the most obvious ones, and it's Jay and it's Bron.
Okay.
Him and Bron have done something before. The thing in the car with Car Champion,
The
which
Uber
was dope.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would add, like, again, going back to Kevin provides this kind of cheat code and this comfort that I couldn't get if I interviewed Bron myself. Like, I would ask Bron about 2011.
Of
Like, I would
course.
start there.
No.
Like, yo, what the fuck, And then and then I turned it around to Kevin. Like, all right, then he smoked you the next year. Like, you got the get back, everybody's get back. Like, what was that? And it. I feel like that combo would just be so easy to make amazing. And I'm bold enough to ask Bron all the goofy shit, and even if he laughs it off, at least I asked him.
Yeah.
The other one is Jay, just because Jay is just such an integral part of, like, I think all of everybody in our cultures, growth and just you growing up and coming of age. Like, he's part of all of that for everybody. But I mean, there's probably some off the beaten path stuff. There's probably some guests like only I want to interview, and they're just kind of like, for me. I'd love to talk to SZA. I'd love to talk to Summer Walker and just try to make. I know they're not the most talkative people, but I just try to get as much as we can get out of them. There's a lot of people. I'm so, like, in my own silo in the world of the shit that I like, though, and so stubborn with it that we might fuck around and talk to, like, an author who wrote 3 books that I liked 20 years ago or some shit. So there's no telling who could show up. As much as we want to swing big with guests, we also want to remain natural into ourselves and, maintain that camaraderie that I think is helping bring in most of our audience. But yeah, I mean, we'll get Bron eventually. I don't know when. There's so many things that work with that, but we'll definitely make that work. And I think the basketball culture kind of needs that of them, and especially after this last year, and especially everything they have at stake going forward and their stages in their careers. And I think they're just in a better place to even further dive into what they do. And y'all know, like, people always wonder about, their relationship and all that, but shit, Kevin marvels at what LeBron does just like everybody else.
Facts.
He's up there for him like everybody else, and just in awe of what he can do on the court. And so to sit there with them and beyond all the drama and bullshit and kind of like the shit we would poke fun at, just to hear them talk hoop, just to hear them break down hoop and just be a fan of hoop for an hour would be insane. So yeah, they definitely up there.
Facts.
It's funny
y'all got coming on, man. Y'all got, like,
oh man, we
got people lined up.
We got to keep that at the top, man. We start off low. It's gonna get it's gonna get gradually bigger this season. we start off low.
Yo, you see Drew, you see how you be letting him talk to all the guests like this? You see how
Man.
Yo.
He said, we just called the homie real quick.
Yeah,
after this, we gonna get some actual people, some actual guests.
Exactly.
It's funny you bring up Hov because, like, he did the shop. What was that, 2 weeks ago or 3?
Like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
And, like, we've been watching Hov for 30 years now, almost. And, like, not literally us.
No, well,
but,
I mean, we 26, so damn near, yeah.
But, he did that, the shop, and people were looking like, man, we wanted more. Hov should have done the entire hour and a half, and we should have had Bad Bunny off or that. It's funny how Hov literally the mystique, and everybody wants to hear new shit from him. And have we not heard everything? Like, we've gotten personal music, everything.
I wonder that myself. And, like, somebody like Hov, he's told his story so many times. Like, there's probably no other way to tell a lot of it. And then, like, the real juicy stuff of the last 10 years, he'll probably never tell, because those are personal moments that he wants to protect, and he's gotten so private, which is understandable, right? He's a megastar, can't go nowhere without it being a thing. But that's kind of, that's kind of the art of doing this, is like, how do we get something new out of this situation that we wouldn't get otherwise? And That's what I approach every guest with is like, I want to have the best LeVar Ball interview we've ever seen. I want to have the best, you know, Biggs interview we've ever seen. And he's done a ton of them. So it's like, how do I take that knowledge that we already have and get more out of the story? I was telling somebody on Twitter, they were flaming me because it's like, you talk so much. And it's like, all right, but if I don't give Cole the cliche answer when I ask him why is he rapping like this, like who are you attacking? He's gonna give the cliche answer. So I had to be the asshole and talk way too much, and then make him think. And then he provides this crazy analogy to us about, Kobe had to add these elements to his game, and he had to leave the schoolyard shit behind, and he had to learn how to do that, and it made him better, but he didn't realize it made him better until he saw the results. And he's breaking all this shit down, and next thing you know, he's giving us 10 minutes about why he got back to bars, where he could have just said, yo, I just wanted that lunch table shit again. And so It's like, that's the challenge. That's the challenge of what we do, is trying to get the best out of these people. And they're naturally guarded. And as much as they want to talk, they don't want to talk too much. So I would look forward to the challenge of a Jay interview and just learning more, and give me the what is it, the dinner?
Yeah,
the 40K.
The dinner with Jay-Z.
I'll make the dinner worth more than 40K. we can take that to the next level. So
No,
that's how I see that.
Facts. You get a Hove interview, you got to. It's a lot in the last. Like it's funny. Like Drew just said, and you said, it feels like we know everything, but it's also a lot he has not spoken on like publicly. Right. And if he's willing to go there with you, then it's gold. Like you said, it's gold there. Like, so that's definitely.
Jay's the one, like, I had to break professional protocol. Like, you and I have to take a picture before you leave.
Exactly.
I'm throwing up the rock in that motherfucker, like all that shit.
Yeah.
You taking a picture, bro. Don't go nowhere. It's funny because I'm not the let's get this flick guy at all. Like, if you look at me and Kevin, like, I've taken none of those. Him and I have never just like, yo, pose. But if I'm with Jay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to get the pick. So it just is what it is.
We all got one. We all got that one person. Like,
I gotta get the J pick. I gotta get the B pick if she's there.
Yeah.
I try not to embarrass myself. I try not to embarrass myself, but like, yo, like, you are my queen. Like, can we memorialize this moment? Like, I'll never have this situation again. So it's gotta happen. We'll make it happen though, one of these days.
Nah, that's in y'all wheelhouse for sure, probably.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I spend enough time around Cameron. Hey, man, I might be in the right circles and can make
I try to make things happen for my people. My light, I try to shine it on everybody else. So
I'm all about that.
Exactly. So come on, man.
Spread the wealth, my man.
I could never have a Virgil in my circle, and hold him back because he makes me nervous. I gotta make sure all my brothers see the higher purpose for sure. But we appreciate you for stopping by, man. First episode of season 2 of Play for Keeps. One of my closest friends, one of my, I guess you could say, a mentor to an extent. And then like everything you've done with us, with Drew as well, we appreciate it. So thanks for stopping by, man. We appreciate everything you've done.
No doubt, bro.
Thank you for having me, and I apologize ahead of time for the low download count. I know you had a nice sizzle reel of all these celebrities. And you're gonna jump out. You're gonna jump out with me, but I'm gonna try, man. I'm gonna hit y'all with the retweets. I'm gonna, Kevin will.
Yeah,
that goes.
exactly.
The war room account. But nah, for real, I appreciate it, man, and I enjoy what y'all do, and I'm always here to help however I can, and I just want to see us all thrive, and all this shit we doing, all this synergy we have, and I'm happy I was able to help here. Happy I was able to help any other way I've helped, and I'm always there for everybody. Is to be a resource, and you know what I'm saying. I done put Kevin in the chat with the dumbest motherfuckers I know, and try to make that into something. I think we making some shit happen. So. Nah, I appreciate y'all. Like I always tell you, Cam, and it's the same for you, Drew. And shit, y'all keep me young. Y'all made me like Gunna, like gun to my head, funny. Like, all right,
right.
This motherfucker's nice. But nah, like y'all do more for me than you realize, and y'all always straight with me. You always good in my corner. It's always love. So y'all have a good one, man. Who y'all got winning the series, man? Since this will come out, well, our takes will already be fucked up by this time this comes out. But y'all got Clippers, y'all got Suns.
I wanna go Suns, man. Like you know how I feel about CP, man. I'm hoping
And
he
he gonna
comes
be
back.
out with COVID.
I'm hoping he comes back, man. I'm hoping it's the Suns' year. Especially
I'm
like
gonna pick Phoenix.
like bro, LeBron is out now. KD's out. I can go all in.
It's weirdly dope that we're gonna get a new face on a title. You know, unless Kawhi does it and he might fuck around and do it. But it really is dope, and it's an opportunity for them dudes. Also, like by the time this comes out, I'll probably have been proven wrong. But I got Trey in Game 7. I'm just all the way in on Trey. Like I told Rashad, I need the plug on the little Adidas joints. I'm just here. Like I'm just sold on him 100%. So
He has to be the biggest stock riser this postseason. Like
he's gained so much.
People thought they couldn't get out round one.
Yeah.
Chris Middleton gained a lot to me too, but Trey is just. I saw it before, like I got it, but I had valued other guys above it. But watching him do it on this stage and just how unbothered he is and how ready he is for this shit, it's like, yeah, he's one of them dudes, you know.
Bro.
And now it's about, just being in the right situation. All this other shit he can't control. But if we get him there, he got it. He'll be fine. So.
You and Kev thought I was gassing when I told y'all, like I saw it at the Drew. Like I saw them at the Drew, bro. Y'all thought I was gassing when I said it, bro. But like he really took like the worst team. They put him on the worst team in the league, bro, and he had them within like the last seconds of beating the best team at the Drew League that summer. Like, and he showed up like right before game time. Like
no stretching.
People think I'm gassing when I say this, bro. He really showed up. I had all the stock at that point. This is summer 2019, bro, going into his second year in the league. So like everything he's doing now. I was worried like he might have had the typical growing pains of your first postseason, but like he really is that guy. It's looked effortless for him this playoffs.
Yo, Drew, do you hear this, man? His player eval comes from a little gym in LA.
Shout out King
the homies, the gang and his homies and shit, and like some pickup shit. That's insanity. But I guess I'm not for this one.
I'm not gonna cap. We call LaMelo there too.
I'm telling you, like,
and I was like, hey.
So y'all telling me these NBA talents lit up some like dudes who be at LA Fitness, and y'all was like, oh yeah, he might could go to the league. Like,
when LaMelo was up in there, and you gotta see it in person. You gotta see it to understand. Come out to LA, come to the Drew.
I know a few guys, man. I might get like, I know it's free, but I might get like prime real estate when I get in the gym. So,
okay.
I know a few guys, man. I'm gonna come out. I'm gonna check them out. I want to go when the pros are there, and so I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see it. I've never been, so I'm gonna check this shit out.
Oh yeah, you gotta.
You definitely gotta go.
And I guess I'll see the future stars of tomorrow at these pickup games you guys go to.
No, thanks for sure. But all right, we about to get up out here.
We just said bye 10 minutes ago.
Exactly.
I appreciate y'all, and again, y'all be straight, man. Y'all have a good one, and appreciate you guys for having me.
Appreciate you, bro.
No doubt, bro.
Thank you.